If there's no emergency funding this year, there will be 1 out of 3 farmers will file bankruptcy.
Arkansas farmers are crying bankruptcy, begging the government for bailouts. And you know what? They voted for this. Trump's tariffs, Trump's inflation, Trump's big beautiful bill that doesn't pay a damn dime until 2026. That's not bad luck. That's FAFOF around and find out. 70% of farmers still say they believe in the tariffs that are crushing them. That's like cheering for the guy who just repoed your tractor. Loyalty this blind isn't just expensive, it's generational suicide. Look, I don't celebrate people losing farms, but actions have consequences. Arkansas voted overwhelmingly for Trump, and now they're learning the hard way that racism, culture wars, and blind loyalty don't put food on the table. They cost you everything.
We don't have any way to pass those additional costs on, and we're already looking at very small profits per acre on crops.
I've never seen prices jump to levels like they are now as fast as they've jumped.
It's just been harder and harder and harder to find those people to work.
Bethany Gotts owns Quay's Farm in Mountain Home, but now with fewer workers, a lot of the manual labor is left up to her. She tells me she's tried hiring locally, but it's been difficult to find people willing to do the hard work.
Finding a legal American here that is going to work as hard as an immigrant is nearly impossible.
She even posted job openings on Facebook.
I had 7 people contact me about it, and when I sent them the description, I had no people respond.
She says hiring undocumented workers is not an option, with serious risks for both sides.
One, you're going to get fined. You have unfortunately, an employee living in fear. They could get picked up at any moment, and then you're without an employee.
To keep her farm running, Gotts is hiring high schoolers and is now looking into the federal H-2A visa program.
I have endeavored to spend $200,000 to build a small worker housing so that I can get H-2 workers next year.
Gotts hopes for long-term solutions that support both farmers and workers.
The misnomer that farmers exploit immigrants is just so sad to me because, like I said, my friends and neighbors, we love our workers. They're our family. And they want to work, and they will work hard. And there needs to be a path for these people in our country because our government has failed them. And it is failing, I feel, the farmers.
When I saw the new fertilizer price, I'm like, holy crap. Talk about a kick to the gut.
Spring is here, which means it's planting season in Iowa. For corn farmers preparing to sow their fields, the war with Iran couldn't have come at a worse time.
So this is the fertilizer.
Right.
So how much did the price of it go up after the war in Iran erupted?
It went up about $250 a ton in my neck of the woods.
Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a critical transit point for a third of the world's fertilizer, sent the price soaring. The cost of 2 widely used nitrogen fertilizers shot up by 20 and 50% in the first few weeks of the war. A decade of inflation, low commodity prices, and tariffs have squeezed Jolene Reason's profit margins. She's now facing her toughest year yet as a farmer.
You know, every year's a risk when you farm, but this has kind of been compounding. You know, our prices have been low, and yet our input costs continue to ratchet up.
With the price of fertilizer already higher than last year, she put off buying until last month, hoping the price would go down. Then the war started, and the opposite happened. With the window to plant closing, she had little choice but to buy at a high price.
For the amount of fertilizer I was going to buy, it had gone up about $13,000 in 2 days. What pot does that come out of? You know, fertilizer price, we can't control. Fuel price, we can't control. Where is it all going to end up? We don't know.
This is like the worst I've ever seen it, gambling what our futures are going to look like.
Farmer Lance Lillibridge has been representing Iowa corn growers for 14 years.
The current conflict in Iran is hurting farmers everywhere in Iowa and across the country. If we're not able to sustain our land with the nutrients that's needed to grow a crop, then our yields are going to go down. eventually going to drive up the price of corn, which is what we use to feed chickens, pigs, and cattle, amongst other things. And eventually that is going to go back to the consumer at the grocery store.
While it may take some time for shoppers to see the price increase reflected in their groceries, Jolene's costs continue to climb higher than what she makes for her corn.
This is the corn that we've been talking about.
Yep.
At today's price of corn, she could lose roughly $110 per acre across her 530 acres.
We just did the math, and so maybe looking at losing $58,000. So what am I going to do to negate that? I have never lost quite that much before.
Still, she has hope the price of corn will go up this year to offset at least some of that loss. She keeps a close eye on its every move in the market.
Time to check the markets.
How many times a day are you checking the prices?
Sometimes half dozen times a day, and sometimes that isn't enough. Now you know that at closing at 2 o'clock they were up 4 cents and now they're down 2 cents, which means that was a 6 cents move in the market. Crazy.
And today I'm promising to request additional farm relief for our great patriots in the next funding bill.
Last month, the Trump administration lifted sanctions on fertilizer sales from Belarus and Venezuela to try to ease the price surge and promised more aid to farmers. Still, Jolene is making hard calculations to stay on the farm that has been in her family for 85 years.
Those income sources could very well be selling some equipment. There's a chance that there could be some ground sold. And then what are you left with? For some farmers, it's a legacy. That's my legacy that I'm selling. If it was up to me, the war would be done yesterday.
The number of American farmers struggling to stay afloat is on the rise. Family farm bankruptcies last year were up 55% from 2023. And the main culprit for this trend, higher costs.
Fertilizer, fungicides, pesticides, seed, all the other things that go into commodities farming, those prices are at an all-time high. And then the price of the commodities themselves are at an all-time low.
Will Westmoreland is a farmer and the executive director of the Back 40, an organization that advocates for the revitalization of rural America. The cost of borrowing is another expense that has also increased. The number of farms at risk of defaulting on their loans are at their highest levels since 2020. This as banks are reporting a surge of non-real estate farm loans this year compared to last, while repayment rates are dropping.
A lot of farmers that have already spent through their operating capital to pay for these higher input costs, and there's no confidence they're going to be able to pay these loans at the end of the year.
A lot of farmers are running on very tight margins.
Josh Baeke is a policy editor for Farm Progress, which provides agricultural news, data, and resources to American farmers and ranchers. He says since family farms already run on tight margins, they are struggling to adjust to these increased expenses.
So any hiccup, any type of bad year, and a lot of these small farmers are facing, bankruptcy and financial ruin.
Now, in the midst of these rising bankruptcies, almost $66 billion in agricultural aid is on its way after the passing of President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. The majority of that money will be invested in crop insurance and increasing payouts for some commodity programs to help farmers make up the difference if their profits fall below a certain average. So, could this slow the trend of family farmers' bankruptcy filings?
$66 billion is very welcome. That will help. But these other economic factors are still going against them. And while the support in the Big Beautiful Bill is welcome, that doesn't necessarily address those longer term issues.
Two major issues central to President Trump's policy agenda are pushing up these farmers' expenses: tariffs and immigration. The president's tariffs have caused disruption in the ag industry before. President Trump launched a trade war with China in his first term. That decreased demand for American-grown products. Soon after, family farm bankruptcy filings reached a decade high in 2019. In response, the federal government paid out record levels of subsidies to farmers. Now, in his second term, there is some uncertainty about how new tariffs will shape the agricultural industry.
In the ag sector, our input costs are so large, and it's such a huge part. Raising those costs can be really harmful. I'm not optimistic that these tariffs are a good thing for the agricultural sector.
Todd Keithy is a professor of agricultural economics at Purdue University. While Keithy isn't confident these tariffs will benefit the agricultural economy, especially in the short term, he says farmers do believe it will help them in the long run.
And in my conversations with farmers, I think there's a lot that say like, oh, this will be bad for us in the short run. But they feel that sort of the global economic system needs shaking up. We got to do what we can to gut this one. It might hurt us in the short run, but we got to build up a new sort of set of trade relationships.
Keithy also says these farmers are hopeful the federal government will pay subsidies out to make up the short-term losses. While most farmers are optimistic these tariffs will benefit them, Westmoreland is worried tariffs will reduce demand for American-grown products. We are seeing this already play out with soybean exports. China bought about half of all soybean exports from U.S. farmers in the 2023-2024 commodity marketing year. Now, China has yet to put in a pre-order of U.S. soybeans as the harvesting season begins.
We don't just feed the United States, we feed the world. So farmers have always very heavily relied on the international sales presence to keep things driving from a financial perspective in rural America.
Tariffs and trade battles may reshape the global demand for U.S. farm goods, but the president's nationwide crackdown on immigration threatens to drive up production costs as well.
The president has been unequivocal that there will be no amnesty, and I think that's very, very important. I and the rest of our cabinet certainly support that, effectuate that, and make sure that happens every single day.
There are more than 2.6 million people working on farms across the U.S. A USDA study found that over 2/3 of crop workers are foreign-born. This same study found that 42% of crop workers do not have proper work authorization, but collecting reliable data for the industry as a whole is challenging.
There's generally a shortage of farm labor, which is the reason why you have a lot of these undocumented workers working on American farms. The administration contends that there are enough workers, native-born workers, to take their place. But I think most people in agriculture just think that's not a realistic expectation to have people with no experience in agriculture take these jobs for very low pay.
And Westmoreland says a way to help reduce the amount of undocumented migrants in the agricultural industry would be to address challenges with the H-2A visa. This is the main program farmers use to bring workers into the country.
If your choice as a farmer and a worker is, I'm not going to harvest my crops and make a profit, or as a worker, I'm not going to be able to get a job, you just work around that system, and that's led to undocumented immigration. I really believe that this is a direct result of having people in control of agricultural policy that just don't understand agriculture.
With so many new challenges facing U.S. agriculture, smaller family farms may continue to fail at higher rates. However, Keithy says farm bankruptcies are relatively rare compared to the size of the overall industry. There are more than 1.8 million farms in America, 96% of which are classified as family farms.
The numbers have gone up, correct, but the number that we're dividing by is a very big number. Sometimes those percentage increases will be really high, but the actual number of impacted people will be pretty small.
For PBS News, I'm Dima Zain.
Farm bankruptcy update. That's chapter 12. April, there is an 82% increase from March 2026 to April 2026. An 82% increase. Now let's get into April 2026. Chapter 12, farm bankruptcies. April, year over year, April 2026 compared to April 2025 is a 130% increase in April 2026 compared to April 2025. 130% increase. This is the highest it has been in 6 years. Well, let me tell you who had the number one farm bankruptcy was in Minnesota. Minnesota is number one right now. coming in second, third, and fourth is Arkansas, Mississippi, and California. Is due to high fuel costs. If you missed my post, I did a post on a farmer who was paying $1,500 a day for fuel. Fertilizer. 1/3 of fertilizer comes from the Strait of Hormuz. Equipment. President Trump put a tariff on equipment, and also the trade war. China is the #1 buyer of soybeans in the USA. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. Farmers are going to be having more bankruptcies, more suicides, and more trouble ahead, which trickles through to the consumer, of course, because higher input costs equals higher cost to the consumer. Hi, my name's Christina. If you found this post sad but informative, please like, comment, follow, and share for more economic news.
Rural America, I hope you're watching. Farmers and ranchers, I hope you're watching, because you're being gaslit right out of existence. Hey guys, my name's Will. This is the Back 40, and let's talk about it. Nothing summarizes, nothing epitomizes, nothing represents the gaslighting that's happening to farmers and ranchers in rural America better than the Chinese trade deal that was announced today. Can you imagine a situation in rural America at any job you hold or on any farm and ranch in this country where you could be praised, lifted up, and put on a pedestal for creating a problem, blowing up the entire economy by creating that problem, backing away from your stance that created the problem, and in the end, claiming a victory because you had to back down? That's exactly what just happened today. In rural America, farmers and ranchers, I hope you're watching, because all of America is going to pay the price, but you're going to pay a very special price. And the media plays along. Headline after headline today that Trump got his trade deal with China. And oh, what a trade deal it was. He raised the tariffs to 145%. China pushed back, raising reciprocal tariffs of their own. Farmers and ranchers lost $1.6 billion in beef sales. And Australia stepped in to fill the gap. Markets that will not come back again. Are you listening, farmers and ranchers? Up to 80% of corn crop exports gone. 37 billion metric tons of soybeans sold overseas, gone. Brazil, which used to sell China 13% of their row crop reserves and consumptibles, now sells them 43%, and those markets will not be back. Pork sales down. The threats of fowl sales, chicken, turkey, etc., going down. And what did we gain as a result? The administration admits that China gave up not one single concession to get this deal. Not one. All that happened is that the two sides agreed to lower these tariffs and to back off for 90 days, at which time they would begin to start talking about the longer term issues. So again, just to summarize, we raised tariffs on China 145%. China reciprocated and raised tariffs on the United States. Foreign markets went away that will never come back again. And billions of dollars in American agricultural sales are gone forever. All of it. All of it. So that the president and this administration, which understand agriculture and rural America about as much as I understand brain surgery and how to walk past a Shoney's all-you-can-eat breakfast bar without dipping into the biscuits and gravy, all so that they could claim a victory based on giving up, turning tail and running, rolling away with no wins, letting the Chinese show us up on the world stage, and caught in the wake, standing there in the diesel smoke, breathing in the fumes of failure, are the rural people of this country and farmers and ranchers, who more than any other group will suffer the consequences of what just happened over the past 3 months. And on top of that devastated economy, that billions of dollars in lost sales, that loss will be compounded by program after program after program designed to mitigate The risk associated with having an administration that doesn't understand rural America and agriculture, that damage will be mitigated by program after program after program going away, leaving farmers and ranchers, 30% of whom did not vote for this president, holding the bag. Many of them left with a hole in their farming and ranching budgets of anywhere from $10,000 to $300,000 because they signed a contract promising them that if they improved their operations, they'd be reimbursed for a proportion of those expenditures. Frozen, gone. Unless, of course, they were conservative farmers and ranchers screaming the loudest on social media, crying those crocodile tears. It's a sad state of affairs. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, or if you wouldn't touch politics with a 10-foot pole, you're going to suffer the consequences of this bad deal. It's time to wake up. It's time to admit you were lied to. We've got farmers in this country planting crops, not because they think they're going to sell them at a profit, but because they think they're going to get the highest amount in crop insurance for that crop when it's sold at a loss. It's time to wake up. It's time to put these culture wars aside and start voting in our best interest, because how much longer do we have with Wall Street and corporate ag and international companies standing on the sidelines waiting to buy up our small farms and ranches as they fail? As bankruptcies increase, as farmer and rancher unalivings increase in this term just like they did in his last term, it's time to wake up. Join us here at the Back 40. Go to the Back 40 Official, allspelledout.com, and join us in this fight. We can't lose very many more battles like this. We can't lose our farm programs. We can't lose SNAP in rural America. We can't lose Medicaid in rural America. We can't lose infrastructure investment in rural America. We can't allow reverse Robin Hood, where money is taken out of our rural schools and given to kids that are already attending private schools. The harm that will be done will be incalculable in rural America. And I, for one, am not going to stand idly by and watch it happen. And I want you to join me in the effort. It's time to stand up. It's time to put labels aside. It's time to do the right thing.
Koch Industries got a lot of money, and that's their job as a corporation, to make more money. They're the apex predator. If you really want to boil it down, as far as for me, I've become the prey.
Farmers in America's Corn Belt are struggling. Over the past few decades, the fertilizer they depend on to grow our food has become astronomically expensive.
There's no competition going on, and it's really, really frustrating.
Right now, just 4 companies, including Koch Industries, control more than 75% of the nitrogen fertilizer market, allowing them to drive up prices for farmers and reap record profits. And that's about to get even worse.
Koch Industries plans to buy one of the country's largest fertilizer companies.
Iowa State Auditor Rob Sand says Iowa taxpayers and Iowa farmers will suffer.
This sale could create a monopoly in the industry.
The plant Koch wants to buy was built with taxpayer subsidies to create more competition and lower prices.
And now here we're in a situation where we had all these tax dollars go into building this plant, and yet now it's potentially going to be owned by the very same company that the plant existed to provide competition for.
We wanted to know how we ended up with a system that creates massive profits for multi-billion-dollar companies at the expense of the farmers who grow the food that feeds all of us, and how we might finally be able to fix it.
This is all I've ever known, is how to farm.
Harold Beach is a farmer and a board member of a co-op that sells fertilizer in northeastern Missouri. His farm has been in his family for 5 generations.
I left college and thought, well, I'll come home and farm a while till I decide what I want to do with life. And I guess I'm still trying to decide. Let's go by the anhydrous plant first, where we store it.
Anhydrous ammonia is a form of nitrogen fertilizer that's essential for many corn farmers, especially in this area. Right now, Harold's co-op gets it from Iowa Fertilizer Company, the plant Koch Industries wants to buy.
Corn's a big user of nitrogen, And so, yeah, it's very important, the pricing of it. You think, well, $50, $70 a ton of product, well, that's not too bad. But that's in addition to the other $5 or $10 an acre for all the other inputs. You add that all up, pretty soon there's nothing left. I mean, you've essentially done it for nothing.
For corn farmers, almost 40% of their operating cost is just fertilizer. But it wasn't always like this.
It used to be with fertilizer, there was lots of different places handling it. Anhydrous, we could buy it all day for $80 to $100 a ton, and now it's $700, $800 a ton.
Back in the 1980s, there were 46 companies making nitrogen fertilizer. Now there are just 17. As the industry consolidated, the price farmers pay has more than tripled, and profit margins for the biggest players in the industry doubled.
All our big corporations talk about free markets and we're just here to do the Lord's work, but no, they like a good fixed market too, just like everybody.
In 2012, the state of Iowa came up with a plan to fix this. Former Governor Terry Branstad offered an Egyptian fertilizer company huge tax incentives to build a plant in Iowa.
It's not very often that plant from $50 to $75 a ton cheaper.
But that could soon change. In December 2023, Iowa Fertilizer Company announced it was being bought by Koch Industries for $3.6 billion.
What I'm concerned about here is we had a purpose for investing these tax dollars. And that purpose was to maintain competition so that we would have lower prices for fertilizer for farmers and then lower prices for everybody for groceries. Personally, I think that taxpayers should feel like they're getting robbed in this deal.
The Kochs have long argued that the government should stay out and let the free market dictate the economy.
What's driving the inequality? It's the government picking winners and losers. And
the global food trade is entering a new era, and Africa is becoming an increasingly important part of the conversation. As China expands its agricultural partnership across Africa, more African producers are gaining access to one of the world's largest consumer markets, from sesame and avocado to cocoa, coffee, and other agricultural exports. Several African countries are working to increase trade with China, creating new opportunities for farmers and businesses across the continent. These developments have caught the attention of global markets because they reflect a broader shift in international trade. While the United States remain one of the China's major agricultural supply, analysts are watching closely as Beijing diversifies its import source and strengthens economic ties with emerging markets. The question is no longer whether Africa can compete, it's how quickly the continent can scale production, improve quality, and capture a larger share of global demand. If this trend continues, it will reshape investment, food security, and trade relationships for decades to come. For African economy, the opportunity is significant for established exporters around the world. It's another reminder that global competition is evolving faster than ever. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Do you believe Africa has the potential to become one of the world's leading agricultural exporters, or are there still major challenges that must be overcome first? Share your